Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, we're going to get into social media and how difficult or how easy is it to get monetized or to go viral, or more importantly, how to make your social media and your content make sense, and how to make it make sense to the right audience, the right viewership. Today, we have a young lady all the way from Connecticut who has some expertise on this, who not only took her knowledge and decided to bring it over into the social media realm to show other individuals just how important it is to navigate social media, but she's also a dietitian. And she's getting ready to unlock those secrets to becoming viral. Like to welcome to the show, Amy Gorin. How you doing, Amy?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's get right down to it. First of all, who is Amy Gorin before we get into uncracking the code to social media success?
Yes. So I am a plant-based registered dietitian nutritionist, and I am the CEO of Master the Media, which is a media training and certification program for health professionals and entrepreneurs. And I started Master the Media because I saw that health professionals are just working insane hours, not getting paid what they're worth. And honestly, there's also so much misinformation out there on social media and in traditional media that we really need to do what we can to dispel that misinformation and spread accurate health messaging. So that's what I hope health professionals do, is not only reach millions of people through sharing the information that they're truly passionate about, but also, earning what they're worth and to stop trading their time for money.
When you say miss and mispropaganda on social media, give me at least 3 examples of what you saw that was not accurate, that really resonated with you, that made you take the leap to go to where you're going now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so many studies and research that say, X% of the health information out there is inaccurate. One study I saw the other day said that 87% of everything that you see health-wise on social media and online is inaccurate. So that means only 13% of what you see is true. So it could be something as simple as, following a carnivore diet is the best thing for everyone, or everyone should eat a plant-based diet. There's really no one-size-fits-all advice, and that's where it gets really confusing. And then we get into the really harmful advice, I think there was something about the banana diet, you should eat so many bananas a day or whatever it was. Then we get into where we're actually creating harm for ourselves because you're cutting out all these other foods that are good for you, and you'll create nutritional deficiencies. There's so much I could get into here, but the long and short of it is I think a lot of people who are looking up information online are looking for that immediate Band-Aid quick fix. And when it comes to our health, especially nutrition, there's honestly, most of it's, the long game. It's what you're eating every single day. Mm-hmm. It's eating a variety. It's eating a balanced diet. It's not, I'm going to start eating only meat tomorrow, or I'm going to eat only plants starting tomorrow. That usually doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. So basically it's about having variety, but you took to the social media aspect with a vengeance here. But to start a company the way you did, Master the Media, more or less, what qualifications do you bring to your company? Because social media it's been around, but it just really started going really almost viral, almost like a cancer, so to speak.
Yeah. So I just to clarify, so I work with my clients on not only social media, but also primarily traditional media. So online articles like NBC and MSN, print magazines, TV shows, getting on podcasts and radio. So my first career, I was a magazine editor, and I lived and worked in New York City for Parents and Prevention and Health Magazine. And so I went to journalism undergrad, journalism grad school, and I got my very first job as an editor, and I was earning $14 an hour living in New York City. So that's like $29,000 a year. And I was working 70 hours a week. Just honestly, I was pretty unhappy. And I started thinking there has to be something better than, working this much and making this little.
Right.
And because I was working on nutrition content for the magazines I was working at, I started thinking about going back to school to be a dietitian. So I did that. It took me 7 years of going to school at night while working full time. And then when I finally became a dietitian, I thought, all my problems were going to be solved. I'm going to be working less. I'm going to make more money. Mm-hmm. But it was very hard to find a job. And the only job I could find was at a long-term care center, earning $40 an hour, which was kind of like what I worked my way up to at that point, working in magazines. And so I thought, I started working that job, and I really, really disliked it. It made me really unhappy. And I just thought, I did all this. I spent all this time going back to school. I accumulated all of the student debt, and I'm earning the same amount of money, and I'm not happy. And so I thought that there must be a way to change this. And I thought then, what if I were to combine my media experience with my nutrition expertise? Mm-hmm. And that's when I started Master the Media, really as a way to, for one, spread health information that's accurate to millions of people. Because when we're healthcare practitioners, working one-on-one with patients is amazing, but you're helping one person at a time. And this way through media, if you're quoted in a Livestrong article, that reaches millions of people, and you can reach millions of people all at once. But also then, I found a way that I myself could earn honestly a lot more money than I'd ever made. In that very first year that I was working in the media as a dietitian. So I call that working as an expert with influence, because you don't have to have millions of followers to have that influence. You have that expertise. I earned $147,000 that year. And then the next year, I earned $262,000 working with media and working with brands. And then I thought, I'll create a program that teaches other health professionals, other entrepreneurs, basically anyone with an expertise, how to do this. And so really what my clients get is that they get to, spread accurate health messaging to millions. They get to work less and make more money than they've ever made. So they have that financial freedom and that time freedom.
It sounds too good to be true. And
it does. It honestly does.
Because you see this on social media all the time. You see people offering these services to say, okay, you want to be featured in Forbes. And you see the clever marketing campaign going on. But let's get real. Everybody can't just go take this course and be overnight sensations, because they may not have the accolades that you had. They didn't spend 7 years in college. They don't have a brand with quote unquote to be marketing. So how do you actually take somebody to that level?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And honestly, it doesn't take, I'm not saying it happens overnight, but I've taken my 20 or so years of media experience and really condensed that down into a 6-month crash course. And that's what I teach my students. So we spend the very first thing we do is we refine, what your expertise is, who you're talking to. I have a whole team of amazing instructors. So the person who works with our students on that, he literally marketed 5 Super Bowls and put 75 books on bestseller lists. And then we go through how to talk to the media in a way that they want to feature you over and over again. And so we have an Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist who helps our students with that. And then we go into how to work with brands. And that's really where the magic happens, is when we get to the point where my clients are utilizing their media exposure to grab the attention of brands. And brands, honestly, like, it's something where they have big budgets where they want to pay experts to endorse their products. So I myself, for instance, one of my favorite foods of all times is Amy's Kitchen. And I featured them in a US News article. And then they reached out to me and we ended up working together. And I got paid to eat food that I would be eating anyway. I also worked with Panda Express to help make their menu healthier. And that was a 2-year campaign.
Did, 'cause I only eat one thing from there, and that's their rice.
They have I love that they have some really amazing vegetable sides that I was really happy to help spread the word about. But it's really kind of amazing when you look to, honestly, any major brand in some capacity, whether it's behind the scenes where they have, some information for healthcare practitioners on their website, or if it's consumer facing where they want to do an advertisement on social media with the healthcare expert or the entrepreneur. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Who is the ideal candidate? Let's get real. I mean, social media is a never-ending traffic jam. You constantly have to pump information. You constantly have to pump content. You have to know the right combinations to success to even get monetized. And it's almost like, for a while, the younger generation was cracking it like crazy because they understood algorithms. Who is the ideal candidate for something like this?
Honestly, anyone who has an expertise. So I work with a lot of healthcare practitioners you have to narrow in your expertise. So for instance, I'm a dietitian, but my expertise is plant-based nutrition, and even more narrow from there, I help anyone and everyone eat more plants, whether they're vegan or flexitarian or just curious about eating more plants. And when you have that really specific expertise, you're not talking to everyone, you're talking to that specific audience. And that's what makes you super attractive to media and brands, because this works for anyone with any kind of expertise. So an entrepreneur, I'm working with someone who is an entrepreneur. She owns a bicycle store. And so her expertise is fitting people for bikes and what kind of cycling shoes to buy. And so that's attractive to, she was in a US News article on the best cycling shoes to buy. And that might attract a brand who, creates cycling shoes, who wants her to endorse the brand because she has that specific expertise. Versus if I'm just a dietitian and I'm I can help you lose weight, I can help you gain weight, I can help you with diabetes, I can help you with heart disease, I can help you with kidney disease, then I'm speaking to so many people that I'm not super attractive to any particular media outlet or brand because I don't have that specific focus.
Mm-hmm. But you said, what's the duration of something like this? Because, and is there a difference in time of investment? Like if you got somebody that's already capable of, already has the brand, already has the things narrowed down, is there a gap between the time frames for a person that does versus a person that doesn't?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you have experience, it just expedites the process. So I've worked with clients who have been doing this for 20 years, but they just weren't that successful at negotiating a lot of money for those brand partnerships. And when I say a lot of money, I mean like a $50,000 or a $75,000 contract versus like a $5,000 or a $7,000 or a $12,000 contract. And these are big numbers I'm throwing around, right? Versus, I had one client Her name's Katie, and she joined Master the Media. She had 600 Instagram followers when she joined. So my point here is that she didn't have much of a social media following. In 6 months of working with me, she earned $41,000 from working with brands. And her social media following is still pretty small. It's about like, I want to say 1,200, maybe 1,400. And the brands are drawn to her because she has that expertise and that authority. And the social media followers that she does have are highly engaged. So it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality, and her authority and her credentials and expertise.
It is so funny that you say that, because we also produce and develop podcasts. And the funny thing about it, when people come to me, the first thing the first thing they share with me is they always go to their social media, and I always say, well, if you have 5,000 people, because I think that's the max for like Facebook, then you have to go to a business page and so forth. I said, but let's say, for instance, you got 5,000 followers. How many people actually engage out of 5,000 people? And
exactly.
they never really think about that. But you're telling me that it's cool to have that, but they also need to be realistic and understand, if you have, even this young lady talking about having 600, I believe that was a number. She's engaged with 600 people is powerful than the 5,000 that may not even be engaged in your stuff, because you're delivering a powerful message that the brand people want.
Exactly. So she has those 600 people, and 75% of them are seeing and engaging with every piece of content she puts out. That's much more valuable than if you have 5,000
Correct.
followers and 0.01% of them are engaging. It's just, you want that community, and that's what brands and media are attracted to, is your authority in a state and a particular expertise attracts people who want to be engaged with you, and that's what they're wanting to invest in.
You definitely bring valuable information to my show, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. But especially now, with so many people going online, going on social media, and not really understanding how to navigate the ocean.
It's a big ocean.
Yeah, and not really knowing how to navigate it, but understanding, because it is such a big ocean, there is profitability in there if you know if you got the right people on board with you, help you navigate the ship.
Absolutely.
With that said, what have been some of the biggest problems that you had to deal with resetting and changing people, educating them on how to do this? Because usually people think they just keep posting, keep doing this, and it's going to happen. What are some of the challenges that you have to deal with when you're bringing people on board to your program?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because I literally had a talk with a potential client earlier, and she asked a similar question about, well, I want to do all of this. I want to start a new business. I want to start a new website. I want to do this and this and this. And I also want to work with media and work with brands. Mm-hmm. And I told her that, really, like, let's pause, let's take a step back, because a lot of people come to my door and they think I have to have my business completely set up. I have to have this beautiful website already set up to be able to work with the media and work with brands. But that's not the case. It's actually more important just to get started, to build your authority, to build that media exposure. Once you have like just 3 to 5 media features that you've been featured in, that's what starts to make you really attractive to more media and brands. And then you can feature that on your...
When you say media features, once you've been featured, because everybody can't be featured in Forbes magazine and Sports Illustrated, and so let's talk real sense to people, because everybody doesn't have that ability to be there. So when you talk about media attention or media kit, what are you telling people that they need to start with on a lower level for dummies, basically?
Okay, yes. So if you want to make this super, super simple, the one thing that anyone could do today is think about a product that you love. So for me, I gave my Amy's Kitchen example. Like, what's your favorite brand? Just the first thing that comes to mind.
My favorite brand, I like Chipotle. I like their rice, and I like their chicken and their beef. That's first thing in mind. Probably because I'm hungry too.
Okay, so there you go. So next time you're eating there or you bring it home, take a picture of it or a video, tag them on your Instagram stories. It could just be an Instagram story. And then just say like how much you love it and what it, why. And then see what happens. Maybe they'll repost you and that will get you more attention on social media. Maybe they'll start engaging with you and you'll start a conversation about potentially working together in a partnership. Mm-hmm. But you literally have to put yourself out there. And that's just like one small step. And if you do that for 10 products, I would bet you anything that like one of those at least will get back to you and you'll start a conversation with them. And I gave this challenge to a group of people I talked to a couple of weeks ago, and already, many of them are emailing me and they're like, oh, I posted about Aura Ring and they wrote me back and they want me to be in their ambassador program. And honestly, you never know what's going to happen, right? If you don't put yourself out there.
How important is a media kit for individuals that's trying to elevate as it pertains to even going to your company and keeping their brand out? Because truly, once they're done with your program, they should have the tools to go out and do it on their own. Am I correct?
They'll have the tools even when they're partway through our program. And Master the Media is different because we're not only teaching our students how to make those connections, but we're literally hand delivering the connections on a gold platter. So I have a really robust network of 6,000 brand connections and editors and producers. And I'm constantly making connections between my students and the brands that they love. So like Impossible Foods, Dave's Killer Bread, Cliff Bar, and then also really big media outlets like Eating Well, Eat This Not That, Live Strong, Well and Good. As for the media kit, it's something that is part of our program. We help our students create a media kit, and we actually have a designer who created the website for the home edit help our students with that. But it's not essential. And I say that because I did not have a media kit until like 3 years into business. Mm-hmm. And it's more of something that just kind of makes you look more professional. But if you don't have all of that information and you're talking to someone who asked for a media kit, honestly, you can just put in the body of an email, this is who I am, this is what I do, here's my website, here's my Instagram, this is how many followers I have, this is the engagement rate, things like that. And that's really what they want to see. It doesn't have to be this big, beautiful, splashy thing.
So you said now with the social media, the media kits is not as important as understanding your engagement with the actual audience. What about the engagement rates and so forth? Like, how do you take it to the next level for bigger people? Because bigger companies want to see bigger numbers. They want to. I know social media is new, and a lot of the CEOs of companies don't really follow social media. I'll be honest. They too busy running companies, so they're not evolving it quickly. But they still have old dinosaur ways of thinking. They want to see numbers. They want to see numbers and signals. How do you translate that into for your clients to be able to present a package to people that still have the old dinosaur mentality?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of metrics you can look at. There's not just social media followers and engagement rate. There's also when you're featured in a media article, how many people did that article reach? So it could be, 1 million, it could be 200,000. Do you have a newsletter list for your audience? For instance, for Master the Media, we have a newsletter list of about 12,000 people. Our open rate is really high. It's usually at least 50%. That's a really, really high open rate. That means engagement. That means that a company is going to be attracted to wanting to work with you because people are opening the emails that you send to them. So there's a lot of different ways. If you have a blog, you can track how many people are coming to the blog each month, what the retention rate is. These are all things that, depending on the goals of the company you're talking to, their goals could be social media related, their goals could be website related, they could be media related, but there's a lot of different ways to attract them in those conversations.
You've been in business since 2017, 8 years. What have you seen change between the time that you started to now? Because like we just said, social media is a never ending traffic jam, and it's all kind of different ways that people are turning. What have you seen different?
Do you have 5 hours? No, really. A lot of things have changed, and that's really, I would say literally these days things are changing every single day on social media, and so a really important piece of being in this game is just being really agile and willing to pivot when you see something that's working, that's not working. So like a month ago, for instance, I have two Instagram accounts. I have Master the Media, and then I have Amy D. Gorin, which is my nutrition account. And for a long time, we were doing collaboration posts between the two of them. They were performing really well. They were driving traffic to each other. Then we saw that wasn't working so well, so we stopped. And then like a couple days ago, my social media strategist said, hey, everyone in my circle is telling me collaboration posts are the thing to do today. So now we're experimenting again. But it's basically social media is one big experiment. You can watch the trends and react, but you can also experiment with things on your own because, it's all about that algorithm that nobody really knows what's inside of it. Mm-hmm. And so just sometimes your post that you think is not going to perform is the one that goes viral. And that's the crazy thing about social media.
How do you, without giving your trade secrets, how do you take somebody and make them viral to an overnight sensation? How do you take raw clay and turn it into something that's successful? Because let's get real. You can have 50 clients. Not all 50 clients are gonna reap the be able to drink from the well, because how much work does that individual have to put into what you're teaching?
I mean, honestly, I know this sounds too easy, but the process that I teach in Master the Media is literally 1 hour a weekday, follow our process, and you do see success. And the first thing that we focus on, it's not social media. It's securing regular media. And in our network, we're bringing hundreds of media opportunities to our students directly. So it makes it really easy for them to get them. And so from there, like say you walked into my program, you had never been featured in the media. Let's just pretend. And then you're in my world for a little bit.
Being featured in the media. When you say not ever being featured in the media, clarify exactly what that means.
Yeah. So like never having been and, having your name in a magazine, having done an interview with a website like Well and Good or Very Well Health or Time Magazine or MSN, or being on TV or even being on a podcast. So you've never done any of that. The first thing we'd focus on is getting you at least a handful of those, like even one or two. Then we'd take your social media profile and we'd say, okay, this is my, I'm Amy. I'm a plant-based dietitian. I have been featured in the New York Times, Time Magazine. And then I'd have like an opt-in, like click this link for a free something or other. And then all of a sudden, everyone who comes to my social media profile, and you can do this with your website too, your homepage, they're like, oh, okay, whether they're someone who wants to work with me because I'm a dietitian, so they want to be my patient, or if they're a brand who wants to hire me to work with them, or say that they're a book publisher and they want me to write a book, then it's really clear who I am. And I have this really big reach because I've been featured in these major publications.
This sounds expensive. I've always tell people, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And sometimes that it costs. I mean, people, you mentioned find out what your worth is. How expensive is something like this for somebody that decides they want to take this journey?
Yeah, so Master the Media is $8,000 for 6 months of coaching. And we really, really hold our students' hands. We have weekly coaching calls, monthly coaching calls. We have a private Facebook community where we coach our students every day. And then we're connecting our students with media opportunities like the ones I mentioned for, MSN and Time. And we're also bringing them brand opportunities that are sometimes $50,000 or more. And then they also get access to all of our educational materials, and they get lifetime access to that. So I know, like, when you talk about investments, it's like, okay, you have to invest money to make money. But some of, I mentioned Katie as an example earlier. She's a dietitian and an entrepreneur, and she really, really wanted to move to Europe with her husband. And so in that first 6 months of working with me, she earned $41,000. She's since signed on to work with me more. So she's in month 10.
Is the
She's earned
$41,000 her money, or do you guys get a cut of the $41,000?
We don't take anything. We're just like the connector. So I have a huge network of brand contacts that I've built from all my years of working in magazines and writing for outlets like Food Network and Everyday Health. And I'm not out there anymore looking for opportunities for myself. I'm looking for those paid opportunities for my students. And I'm literally I'd rather them take them than me, because it's going to do a lot more for someone who's never done this before than for me. And I really want them to see how that changes their life and how it just makes everything, Katie's getting to move to Europe, and her business is now making like more than double what it made before starting working with the media.
Okay, so you mentioned the tag of $8,000, but how many individuals in today's economy has $8,000 to not really get a guarantee of return on investment? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question that I've asked myself before investing in programs. Like, I see a business coach, she's very expensive. And sometimes, I had to decide I'm going to invest this money in myself because I believe in the outcome. And it's always paid off for me when I've trusted my intuition. We have payment plans for our students where they can separate the payments out into 6 months or 9 months. It's a business 6 months, you can write it off. At the end of the day, though, you just kind of have to decide, is it something that you want to make the investment in? Both the money and the time. But really, when I see people take that leap, it really does change so many things for them. Like, they build their clientele. Sometimes they want to do a TED Talk. They get to do that. They want to write a book. They get to do that. They get to work with their favorite brands and kind of become that like famous person in their community, which is also really cool.
Okay, sounds like a winner. How can the viewers get information, be a part of what you're doing, and understand, more importantly, how to navigate through the world of social media?
Yes, that is a great question. And we actually have a free guide that I've created for your viewers. So they can go to masterthemedia.co/steps. And so that's masterthemedia.co/STEPS. And it's a free guide on how to get started working with media and brands. And it kind of just spells out the first few things that you should do.
Sounds like a winner. You know what, Amy? Definitely a pleasure having you come on the show and bring some educational knowledge to the world of social media, because truly everybody's on it, but very few of us know how to really navigate it. Very few of us know how to make it where it works for us instead of working against us. And if you got content, you definitely want to be in a situation where you get paid for it if it's valuable information. With that said, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.